What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and once again a very happy launch of Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep Day. The book is officially out now, available in wherever you can typically find your D&D books. And remember, if you can't find them locally or someplace, Amazon does have them. Actually, I checked currently, they're actually almost full retail price of $49.99 on Amazon, which is a shocker because normally Amazon sells them for about $20 cheaper. Anyway, I'll have a link, an Amazon affiliate link in the description, as well as a pinned comment if you'd like to pick up a copy for yourself and also support the channel at the same time. You can consider doing that if you like. Also, we're trying to raise this number up to 100K so we can hang that nice play button on the wall somewhere here for YouTube. So if you like the channel and like this kind of coverage or other things that I do here, consider subscribing. So we're going to be talking about the magic items contained in Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep today. So I'm giving you an official warning that this is, well, I guess a spoiler warning, right? One, if you're going to play the game and you don't want to know what magic items will be in there that will be spoiled for you, then don't watch this video till after you get a chance to play it. And again, depending on some of the items, some of them are sort of story specific, specifically the Vestige of the Divergence that you'll find in here. Again, a magic item that many Critical Role fans will know what I'm talking about, the power of these kind of ever-growing magic items. There is one contained in here. It is heavily tied into the story. I'll give you the preface when we start talking about it again in case you want to hear a couple of the items and then want to click away, but you've been warned. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So this is Appendix B, the magic items. So first, right out the gate, again, this is kind of a little, I mentioned this in the last thing, Ruidium is a new material that exists in the world of Exandria, and it is linked to the Apotheon, channeling not only not just Elixion's distorted emotions, but also curse of misfortune bestowed upon him by the moon Ruidus, which is the sort of red crimson moon of Exandria. Though it is a source of magical power, Ruidium corrupts everything it touches. Even magic items can be corrupted by Ruidium, and such items come with a risk. Now, it's a sort of a risk-reward scenario where using these magic items will have benefits to you, but if you were to use or attune to them, you might also find yourself cursed. Weapons and armor can be transformed into Ruidium items by infusing them with powdered Ruidium, which gives these items a rusty red coloration. Other items can be transformed into Ruidium after prolonged contact with the mineral. Such items have Ruidium crystals embedded in them or veins of Ruidium running through them. So it also has a little blurb here talking about what a Vestige of the Divergence is. Basically, it is a magic item that some people might call these legacy magic items or things of that nature. They're an item that grows in power over time, right? It can have multiple stages and things happen, and then it unlocks those stages and becomes more powerful. We'll get to that when we get to it. We have the Breathing Bubble. I believe this came to us originally in Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, but is basically like a bubble shell kind of helmet. Think the Bubblehead charm kind of thing from Harry Potter, but basically it's like a scuba tank, essentially, right? Netherdeep is all about underwater related stuff, so things that allow you to circumvent that just makes sense, right? So it says you gain the item's benefits by wearing it over your head like a helmet, and it gives you breathable air for an hour. And it gets it all back daily at dawn. This is a common magic item. This is something I would highly recommend throwing around in your game, not necessarily that your party is going to be doing underwater combat and things all of the time, but common magic items being common are fun things that you can kind of litter throughout your game, and you don't really have to worry too much about breaking the game. Now, this one, I was very excited to see the Earring of Message. Those of you who are fans of Critical Role Campaign 1 and Vox Machina know that they all sort of had individual earrings that they could use that basically were a constant form of communication that the party had. Now, this is a little bit of a different magic item. This is more fit into the realm of something that has actual mechanics based around it. Basically, the way that those earrings worked in the original campaign of Critical Role was essentially an open comm link between anyone who had one one of these earrings, and they basically, as long as they were within whatever the distance was that Matt had determined, they could basically just have a party line where anybody could just kind of like whisper and talk into, and anybody else with those earrings could hear it. This is that, but a little more quantified in the mechanics of the game. It has 5 charges. While wearing it, you can use an action to expend 1 charge and cast the message spell. The earring regains 1d4 plus 1 expended charges daily at dawn. So it's essentially giving you access to the message spell. I like it. I'm pretty sure it is an homage to that magic item that the party had. And it also, the benefit is you don't necessarily need to have an earring of message to be able to communicate back. So it does still function, again, still using the message spell, which does require you to speak the message. It says a whisper a message, right? So it can be like a, hey, what's going on, guys? And then they get to send their message back. Again, it's not limited really this has you point the finger. In my head, you're kind of grasping the earring because that's what they always used to do in the campaign. But the target, only the target hears the message, and you can reply in a whisper that only you can hear. It does say, this is something I often forget, it says the target and only the target hears the message. So, even if you're whispering it, only the target will hear it. So that's something to consider. And yeah, I think these are a really cool item. This is definitely a nice thing that you could introduce to the party, again, whether in this Critical Role campaign or not, and I think parties will definitely get use out of it. So next up here is the Jewel of Three Prayers. This is the Vestige of the Divergence that I was talking about. This is the one that has a lot of ties to the story of the book. So consider clicking away if you don't want to have that spoiled for you, but for the rest of you, hang on because we're going to dive into it. So it is a legendary magic item, as are all Vestiges of Divergence, and you can see there's a couple of images here, but basically Alexian the Apotheon bore this amulet as a symbol of his covenant with the 3 prime deities, Sehanine the Moonweaver, Avandra the Changebringer, and Corlan the Archheart. Right, so this was, again, high-level story explanation. The Apotheon was basically a hero who went on to do great things in the name of the variety of the prime deities in the world of Exandria, and as such was gifted this sort of item that you see here, the Jewel of Three Prayers, which is personified and, not personified, boosted all of the power level of his sort of divine beings, essentially almost elevating him to demigod status between all of the great deeds he did and this item. So it says, when the jewel is found, only Sehanine's power thrums in its dormant heart. The power of the other 2 deities must be reawakened by the heroes, and that will be kind of the stages of the Vestige of the Divergence. So in its dormant state, the state in which the party will find it, is a glittering golden disc, as you can see right here, attached on a fine golden chain. In its dormant state, it has the following benefits. It gives you a +1 AC, which is pretty nice, so kind of like a half amulet of protection. While wearing or holding the jewel, you can use an action to cause it to shed bright light within a 15-foot radius, dim light in another 15 feet. Nothing too crazy, +1 AC, and a little bit of essentially almost like a torch ability. But then it also has 3 charges that it gets back at dawn that basically allow you to cast the invisibility spell. So that's pretty cool in and of itself, but one of the neat things about a Vestige of the Divergence is things can happen to elevate it, so it can go into its awakened state. It says, in this state, the jewel has received the blessing of Avandra the Changebringer, and then as such, the buds begin to open like spring. I believe that might be this one here. Yeah, awakened state, yeah, is this one here. And we kind of get this extra bit added to the bottom, which I also like. I think this may be the first time we've seen in art form one of the Vestiges multiple iterations. Now, if you watch the original campaign, you kind of had, auditory descriptions that Matt said as things awakened and grew stronger. Here, we're actually getting an art image showing the 3 stages of it, and probably that's because it is a small pendant, but that is what it is. So if we continue to scroll down, we can see that it will also have everything that it already had, but the AC bonus will go up to +2, and the number of charges for invisibility will go from 3 to 5. But it also gains the additional properties. You can expend one of the jewel's charges, no action required, to end one of the following conditions on yourself: grappled, paralyzed, or restrained. And when another creature you can see within 60 feet of you fails a saving throw, you can expend one of the charges as a reaction to enable them to re-roll it, potentially turning a failure into a success. And then lastly, if you manage to up it all the way to the Exalted state, the AC bonus goes up to a total of +3. The number of charges goes up to 7, and it gets the following additional properties. You can breathe water and gain a swim speed equal to your walking speed. Each of your allies within 30 feet also gets the ability to breathe water and a swim speed equal to their walking speed. And you can, as a bonus action, expend a charge to target yourself or a willing creature within 15 feet. They teleport to an unoccupied space of your choice within 15 feet, along with anything they're carrying or wearing, and the target appears in a flash of golden radiance, and each creature of your choice within 5 feet of the target's new location must make a DC 18 con saving throw. On a failure, they take 40/10 radiant damage and are blinded until the start of your next turn. On a success, they take half damage and aren't blinded. Now, it doesn't list into what happens to what you need to do. I'm assuming as part of the storyline. It will allow you to, what causes it to adjust, to go from one state to another. But let's continue moving on. So we have the Metal of Muscle, a common magic item. You can squeeze this metal in your palm as an action. Doing so gives you advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws for 1 hour. Once it's been used, it can't be used again, and the metal becomes non-magical. This is a phenomenal item, because especially if I was just thinking about one of my other campaigns that I played in, the campaign ended, but we had 2 wizards, a warlock, and a rogue. We had nobody strength-based in that party at all. And whenever we ran into a strength-based challenge, it was always really tough, and we used to have to think outside of the box how we would get out of that scenario. Now, I enjoyed that a lot because it did allow us some really interesting stuff that we could do, but having a simple common magic item like this that we could burn to possibly allow us to power through something is pretty cool. Next up, we have the Metal of the Conch, another common magic item. Rub this metal as an action, gain a swim speed equal to your walking speed for an hour. Another one of these consumables. And I very much like consumable magic items in 5th edition. These kind of little one-offs where you could have a bandolier of these Metal of Muscles and use it. You've got your, expend it. You've got your hour of strength benefits. Also not a bad thing, right? A barbarian could have this if they want to just get that advantage but don't want to burn or rage. A lot of fun things like that. And again, the swim speed equal to your walking speed. Again, how many, and I'll ask you guys, because unless you're specifically playing in like a water-themed campaign, the opportunities where you find yourself having to use your swim speed, depending on the game you're in, is probably pretty limited, right? If you're going on overseas travel or something like that, yeah, you might need to use your swim speed, but if you're traveling through the forest, it probably doesn't come up too much. Following that, we have the Metal of the Horizon back. When you would be hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to increase your AC by 5 until the start of your next turn, basically giving you the shield spell. You must be wearing the metal and be able to see the creature that made the attack, and then again, it goes non-magical. That's also cool because it is not a spell, therefore it is not counter-spellable if someone were to use this kind of Horizon back metal. Metal of the Maze. Again, they're all action-based, except for that one we just talked about was reaction-based. Gain advantage on wisdom checks and know the quickest route to the end of any non-magical path or maze for 1 hour. Metal of the Meat Pie. You gain 2d4 plus 2 temporary hit points when you use an action to press this metal to your mouth. Once you use this property, it can't be used again. While magical, this metal is slightly warm to the touch and smells faintly of baked pie crust. Metal of the Wetlands, let's see, is an action. Difficult terrain doesn't cost extra movement for you for an hour. And Metal of Wit, as an action, doing so gives you advantage on intelligence checks and intelligence saving throws for an hour. Another one, if you have more of a brawny party and no one focused in intelligence, the Metal of Wit would also be a nice thing to have in your back pocket. Next up, we have the Ring of Red Fury, a very rare attunement magic item. It is a Ruidium item, as you can see it here has a stripe of it going through it. You can breathe water, and you have a swim speed equal to your walking speed while you're wearing it. It also gives you the following benefits here. Ruidium Rage. As a bonus action, you can use the ring to gain the following benefits, which last for a minute. Advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. You add your proficiency bonus to the damage roll when you hit with an attack. Difficult terrain doesn't cost you extra movement, and you are immune to the paralyzed and restrained conditions. It is once per long rest. So it's almost like a Barbarian's Rage. Instead of gaining resistance to damage, though, you do get this difficult terrain thing and immune to a couple of conditions, and your damage actually ends up being a little bit more as it is proficiency bonus as opposed to the rage damage bonus. Also, nothing here says that you can't cast spells, and in fact it says when you hit with an attack, which could still be a spell attack roll. It says you can't, a Ruidium Corruption though, as I mentioned, they do have a downside to Ruidium items. When you use the Ruidium Rage property of this ring, you must make a DC 20 Charisma save. On a failure, you gain a level of exhaustion. If you're already suffering from Ruidium Corruption, you become corrupted when you fail this save. And it says if Ruidium is destroyed, which is part of the storyline, if the Apotheon is killed or redeemed, all the Ruidium in Exandria is destroyed instantly, and the Ring of Red Fury becomes a Ring of Free Action. Then we have Rubidium Armor. We can see a little bit here. We have a Rubidium Battle Axe, a Shield, and the Ring of Red Fury here. It very much reminds me of, I don't know, for me personally, I'm thinking a lot of either this sort of First One's Infection from the new She-Ra cartoon, or even like the Siva from Destiny. That's what this kind of Ruidium vibe gives to me. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Might also be because all of those infections were red-based, and this is also a red-based kind of infection. But Rubidium Armor does require attunement. It can be on any medium or heavy armor except for hide, and it gives the following benefits. You have resistance to psychic damage while you wear it, you can breathe water, and you have a swim speed equal to your walk speed. You're going to see a lot of similar veins, no pun intended, on what these items can do. It also, again, has that Ruidium Corruption option. When you roll a 1 on a saving throw while wearing this armor. Now that's interesting because it's when you roll a 1 on a saving throw, normally there's no downside to rolling a 1 other than you more than likely will fail. But when you roll a 1 on a saving throw, any saving throw while wearing this, you need to then make a DC 15 Charisma save. On a failure, you get a level of exhaustion. If you're not already suffering from Ruidium Corruption, you become corrupted when you fail this save. If Ruidium is destroyed, then it becomes just +1 armor. The Ruidium Shield, again, is resistance to psychic damage. The same thing as we basically saw up above. It's just a shield as opposed to a piece of armor. But it also has Psychic Reflection. When you take psychic damage while holding the shield, you can use your reaction to choose another creature within 30 feet, and that creature takes the psychic damage that you would have taken. And then again, it has the same thing with Ruidium Corruption, and if Ruidium is destroyed, it becomes a +2 shield. And then we have a weapon that you can breathe water and have a swim speed equal to your walking speed. A creature you hit with this weapon takes an extra 2d6 psychic damage. Once again, has Ruidium Corruption, and becomes a +2 weapon if Ruidium is destroyed. And lastly, we have a Teleportation Tablet. A rare magic item here. It is 8 inches long, 4 inches wide, and ½ inch thick. Inscribed on it is a sigil sequence for a permanent teleportation circle. A creature that studies the sequence for 10 minutes can make a DC 21 Intelligence Arcana check, learning the circle's destination on a success. You can use an action to break the tablet in half, turning it into dust. If it's broken while it's on the same plane of existence as the teleportation circle whose sigil sequence was engraved on it, a 10-foot diameter teleportation circle of glowing blue light appears on the ground within 30 feet of you. The teleportation circle has the characteristics of a one-sided one created using the teleportation circle spell, except that it connects to the teleportation circle whose sigil sequence appears on the tablet. It disappears at the end of your next turn, which is another very useful item for traversing around. Like, this is something you could give to a party pretty easily. Here's a teleportation tablet that leads back to my tower. When you're done with the job, break it and come back. You know, the party might have teleportation circle, or they might not, and this is sort of a fun little way for them to do it. It also doesn't need them to take the time to cast teleportation circle, which I believe takes a minute or maybe 10 minutes. You can obviously take the time if you need to try to figure out where the destination is, but if you already know the destination linked to the teleportation tablet, or you don't care, you just break it as an action and then you're out next turn. So there we go, folks. Now, it doesn't mention too much here about Ruidium Corruption. When we went and looked at them, it says right here, you know, when you use it, you must make a charisma saving throw, or you gain a level of exhaustion. If you're not already suffering from Ruidium Corruption, you become corrupted when you fail this save. Excuse me. The only thing here is, as I look through it, it doesn't really tell us what Ruidium Corruption is, other than it's listed here. So, on a failure, you gain a level of exhaustion. If you're not already suffering from it, you become corrupted. So the way, I mean, I feel like there should be more to it. Maybe there is. Let's go ahead and take a look and see if there's anything about Ruidium Corruption. Ah, here it is. So we'll talk about Ruidium Corruption now because it makes sense. So when a character is at risk of being corrupted, they must make a charisma saving throw or gain a level of exhaustion. From that point on, the creature takes a d10 psychic damage whenever its level of exhaustion increases or decreases by 1 until it's no longer corrupted. The first sign of corruption is a creature gets a bright red rash, which appears on the creature's body. As the creature's level of exhaustion increases, the signs of corruption become more obvious, as summarized in the Physical Signs of Rubidium Corruption table. Decreasing a character's level of exhaustion doesn't affect the physical signs of corruption. Once a new physical sign appears, it can't be removed until the Ruidium is ended. The corruption is ended. You can see the different levels: a rash, pulsing veins, crystal protrusions from their body, and eventually they die. A creature beset by Ruidium Corruption also exhibits emotional signs of corruption. These symptoms include amplified feelings of regret, yearning, rage, and despair. A player whose character is corrupted by Ruidium can roleplay these symptoms however they wish. For example, the player could emphasize or amplify their character's flaw or choose a new flaw. As a sign of physical signs of corruption, as with the physical signs of corruption, all emotional symptoms persist until it's cleansed. Only a wish spell or divine intervention can cure a creature's Ruidium Corruption, simply removing all levels of exhaustion from the creature. Ruidium and the effects of its corruption vanish from the world if Apotheon is redeemed at the end of this adventure. When Ruidium Corruption ends on a creature, all physical and emotional signs of it disappear from the creature instantly. And then it also goes on to say that it can be used. Ruidium can be substituted for any 500 GP or less material component for casting a spell, but if they do so, they must make a charisma saving throw or gain a level of exhaustion after the first spell's cast, and then again, risk that corruption. So there you go, folks. That is the new magic items in the Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep book. Looking at them, I love all of these medals. These are some of my favorite common magic items that we've seen, because common magic items can be really, really basic and do almost nothing. These at least have some interesting mechanical benefits, and I feel like they warrant purchasing multiple instances of them so you can burn through them as needed. I love the Earring of Message. I think that was really cool as well. And again, a lot of these are very good story beat things here, right? The Teleportation Tablet as well, a nice way to get a party to get from point A to point B or back again without providing any insight or having to have the players have spell scrolls or be able to cast them. It's just sort of a quick hit thing. And then again, I kind of like the risk-reward option of the Ruidium items. It's definitely something I might think of doing or coming up with some sort of similar concept for stuff in my own homebrew world. But I'm curious what you all think. Leave me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.